Welcome, one and all, to another installment of NYC Skyline Stories. Your guide, as always, is yours truly, Arthur, the only columnist in this town who knows the difference between a finial and a fig leaf. Architecturally speaking, of course. Today, we're taking a stroll through the rather posh, yet surprisingly checkered, history of the Upper West Side.
Checkered like a taxi cab, Arthur? Or checkered like one of those fancy backgammon boards they used to play in the olden days with all the triangles and stuff?
More like the latter, Benjamin, although some of these stories do involve a getaway car or two. Today, my dear boy, we're talking about the architectural marvels of the Upper West Side, those towering edifices that, shall we say, have seen more drama than a Broadway play.
8 towers, right, Arthur? 8! Count 'em! Like 2 sets of twins, only buildings instead of people. The Dakota, the San Remo, the Eldorado, the Century, the Majestic, the Alden, the Beresford.
Quite right, Benjamin. Although, as any aficionado will tell you, not all of these darlings sport twin towers. The title, you see, is a bit of a poetic license, shall we say, to encompass a collection of iconic Upper West Side buildings. Each one an architectural gem, each one with a past more colorful than a mere LaGuardia speech. But let us begin at the beginning, with a building that needs no introduction, the Dakota.
The Dakota, 1884. Looks like Dracula's summer home, Arthur. Didn't a bunch of famous people live there? Like, that Beetle guy who got shot?
Indeed, Benjamin. The Dakota, a veritable Gothic fortress on Central Park West, has housed luminaries from Lauren Bacall to Leonard Bernstein. And yes, it is tragically linked to the assassination of John Lennon in 1980.
Right outside, too, wasn't it, Arthur? Imagine that! Just popping out for a quart of milk and bam! Some nutcase with a gun!
A chilling event, Benjamin, that cast a long shadow over the Dakota. It became a place of pilgrimage for Lennon's fans, a somber reminder of the fragility of even the most charmed lives. And speaking about charm, do not believe all that guff about ghosts. It cheapens the place.
But there are stories, Arthur, about a ghost kid in secret passages.
Superstitious twaddle, Benjamin. Though, I will admit, it does add a certain frisson of mystery to the building, doesn't it?
Ooh, look, Arthur! The San Remo! 1930, Art Deco, 2 towers. It's like the Chrysler Building's swanky uptown cousin. Didn't like a gazillion celebrities live here too?
Gazillion might be a slight exaggeration, Benjamin. But yes, the San Remo's roster of residents reads like a who's who of Hollywood and beyond. Dustin Hoffman, Demi Moore, Steve Jobs, Steven Spielberg, to name but a few.
And wasn't there some big, kidnapping thingy connected to this place? The Lindbergh baby, right?
Astute observation, Benjamin. While the kidnapping itself didn't occur on the Upper West Side, it did have a ripple effect on the San Remo. Many of its celebrity residents rallied around poor Charles Lindbergh, the famed aviator whose infant son was tragically abducted and murdered.
Hey, Arthur, what about the Eldorado? Those 2 towers look like they're holding hands, and that, Mesa-style architecture is kinda cool.
The Eldorado, Benjamin, completed in 1931, a playground for New York's elite, with park views that'll cost you an arm, a leg, and possibly your firstborn. And the stories, my dear boy, the stories.
Tell me!
From Groucho Marx to the esteemed writer Sinclair Lewis, the Eldorado was a melting pot of the intelligentsia and the glitterati. Imagine the elevator conversations.
Now for the Century, Arthur. Those twin towers are right across from the park.
Another Art Deco masterpiece, Benjamin, also from 1931. And naturally, it has its own roster of notable residents. Igor Stravinsky, the composer, for instance,
Majestic! This one's got some juicy stories, right, Arthur? Like with gangsters and stuff?
Juicy is one word for it, Benjamin. The Majestic, another Art Deco gem from 1931, did indeed play host to some of the city's most notorious underworld figures.
Yeah, Meyer Lansky, Lucky Luciano, all those guys from the movies. Didn't Frank Costello, get shot in the lobby or something?
Indeed, the Majestic was practically their clubhouse. And yes, Frank Costello, a rather unpleasant fellow, even by mobster standards, took a bullet in the lobby. But there is more, my dear boy, much more.
More, Arthur? Spill the beans!
Legend has it, Benjamin, that one of the carpenters who toiled on the Majestic was none other than Bruno Hauptmann, the man later convicted of the Lindbergh baby kidnapping.
Whoa! The kidnapper guy? That's mega creepy, Arthur.
Isn't it, though? Of course, there's no definitive proof that Hauptmann actually laid hands on the Majestic's woodwork, but the story has become part of the building's lore. Gives the place a certain frisson of darkness, wouldn't you say? As if the specter of crime was built into its very foundation.
What about the Alden, Arthur?
The Alden, Benjamin, while a bit more understated in its design, has also played host to a fair share of notable personalities throughout the years. Yet another piece of the puzzle that makes up the rich tapestry of the Upper West Side.
Hey, Arthur, even if it doesn't have 2 towers, we can't forget the Beresford. That's 3 towers.
Quite right, Benjamin. The Beresford, along with the Dakota, are the odd men out, if you will, on our 8 Towers tour. A magnificent structure, also completed in 1929, with an architectural style reminiscent of its neighbor, the Eldorado.
And famous people live there too, right? Like Jerry Seinfeld, that tennis lady, and that movie director.
Indeed, Benjamin. The Beresford, despite its atypical tower configuration, is no slouch when it comes to attracting the rich and famous. Think of it as the eccentric cousin at the family reunion, the one with the most outrageous stories.
So, Arthur, the Upper West Side is like a giant storybook, huh? With all these buildings and their secrets.
Precisely, Benjamin. And these buildings, these towers, they're like the chapters in that book. Silent witnesses to a bygone era of glamour, intrigue, and shall we say, a dash of the unsavory.
Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this little trip to the Upper West Side. See you next time on NYC Skyline Stories.
Until next time, remember to look up, look around, and always appreciate a well-placed gargoyle. Farewell.